Oh, hey, this is Ricky. How y'all doing? Time for frequently asked questions. Our little Sunday afternoon exercise where we. I had an opportunity to share to the group and I didn't get the button pushed. Hey, Bill Boyd, will you share this to the River Oaks group? Do you know how to do that? And I'm going to go and grab my cup and then we'll get started. All right, who else joined here? Boyd Chitwood, it's good to see you, brother. How are you doing? Who else joined? I got a third person, but I don't see their name. Hope y'all are all doing well. I'm coming to you from the bedroom in here. It's a little quieter. The bed's actually made. Bianca always makes a bed every day. So hope y'all are doing well. I am just 100% dependent upon you. I do not have any questions ready. Catherine Pitlick is watching on her birthday. Hello, Catherine. Happy birthday. I hope you're doing well. I hope y'all enjoyed worship today. I hope you tuned in. It was a fun service. It's good to have people back in the room. We had about, I think, 60-something people in the room, which was awesome. And everybody was wearing their masks to be safe, and that was okay. I'm getting used to it. So let us know. I have created an event on the River Oaks page, and if you want to come to worship next week, just click that you plan on coming. And that will be awesome. And right now, I'm just going to go ahead and declare this. We are going to plan on having an outdoor service. It'll be a little safer. And as long as the weather is permitting, our 10:45 service will be outdoors. And we will, we'll try it. We're going to give it a try. What the heck? Denise, thank you for tuning in. Hope you're doing well. Hope you liked that song we sang at the end of worship, and I hope it didn't make you cry too bad. I was crying a little bit. I was crying just the right amount. And then Laura Carricker tried to look at me while she was singing a verse, and that made me just cry so hard. I was done. I was like, come on, Laura. Hey, Josh Martin, hope you're doing good, buddy. Over in South Carolina. So, anyway, it's next Sunday, we will have worship outside if the weather is permitting at 10:45. And we'll be looking at the forecast and make a definite kind of pronouncement about that. So, everybody can come who wants to. Of course, you always can, but there will be no limit on seating. You won't have to wear a mask since it'll be outside, but you can if you want to. And I'm just going to set up on the sidewalk out in front of the sanctuary, and we'll talk to Easy about getting the music done. And so if you want to, that way, hopefully you'll feel more comfortable being outside. It's very safe to be outside. It's just, we get this virus from breathing each other's air and from exchanging germs on our hands. So as long as we don't shake hands, actually hugging is actually safe. Hugging is safer than shaking hands, especially if you hold your breath. So I've been hugging a lot of people, holding my breath while I'm doing it. Recommend that to you as well. But I don't know about you, but I just can't go much longer without seeing people. It's just killing me. So that's what we're doing. It was really, really fun to have people at worship this morning and to be able to preach to actual people. So I don't have my earbuds in. I'm going to trust that by now you would have said something if you couldn't hear. So I'm just going to keep kind of talking until you start giving me questions. I got this question again last night about the law, and it was really well put. It was a friend of mine, Sally Grantham, and she said, I understand what you're saying about there being ceremonial laws that have been fulfilled in Jesus, and civil laws which are now kind of applied to the church and that kind of thing, and then the moral law which is abiding and forever. And she said, but how am I supposed to know what is what? What a great, great question. And I got a couple of answers. One, she wanted to know for herself and apologetically. So for herself, like, how am I supposed to know what laws to follow? And that's why we need a church. I had a couple of people tune in. Sorry, let me say hello real quick. Tim Starnes, my mentor and beloved friend. Emily Perkins, Roxanne Weinbrenner, Laura Bauer. Thank you all for tuning in. It means a lot to me that you would do that. I hope you'll stay on for a few minutes. But you don't have to. I will never know. Isn't that the weirdest thing? You make me feel good by tuning in, and you can only stay for 3 seconds. It's nuts. Hey, Melissa. So anyway, so the question is, how am I supposed to know which laws to follow? The moral law. What in Leviticus is moral law? What is civil law? What is ceremonial law? And I want you to say this. And then secondly, if someone asks me apologetically, how come some things are sinful and other things aren't? What am I supposed to tell them? 2 great questions. First answer. We answer it through community. There are a lot of theological books that have been written about which laws are still abiding, which ones are not. There's good books that have been written. But one of the important things to understand is this, and this is one of the things that I feel very strongly about, and a lot of people don't. And I feel like sometimes I'm the only person who feels strongly about. But the church is important. And this is one of the things that's important about it. You're not supposed to be able just to survive with just you and your Bible. You need the church. One of the many things that the church does is it tells you which of these laws are still binding today. And that's not something for any individual to decide. That is something that the church has decided as a corporate body. The Holy Spirit has not abandoned the church. And so we are relying upon him and following him, and we have been following him for centuries. And that is what helps us to understand. And you have to let the church speak into your life. You know, the problem, and I don't mean to beat up on, I don't think I beat up on our culture. I don't think I do. I don't mean to. Every church, every culture, every era has had its sins. The sins of our era is this. If you don't like a church, you leave it. You know what I'm saying? So the church doesn't really get an opportunity to look into our hearts or to look into our activities, our actions, our sins, and speak to us. And if we don't like what the church is saying to us, we'll go find another one that doesn't mind. And I'm not a hater. I'm not a hater of the mega church. I'm thankful for what they've done evangelistically. But that's one of the weaknesses of a large mega church. They don't know if you're living with your girlfriend, and they don't have anybody who can speak into your life and say you can't do that and take the Lord's Supper. And that's hard. That's hard. And so we need that. We need people who know us and hold us accountable. And that's one of the reasons why you need the church. So you're not expected to interpret the law individually. The law was given to the church. It was given to Israel, and it is still interpreted by the church today. Now, the second part of the question was apologetically. If someone, for instance, was to say, this is a very common thing, well, you say that the laws against homosexuality are still abiding, but the laws against eating pork aren't. So why is it okay to eat pork, but it's not okay to be homosexual? You can't quote Leviticus for one and not for the other. That's actually a pretty good argument. It's an argument against the book of Leviticus. It's not an argument against the Bible in total, but it is an argument against simplistic text, quoting of a simple text, proof text. What's different is that the entirety of the Bible gives us our sexual ethic. The moral law, as opposed to the ceremonial law, the dietary restrictions were ceremonial. They still abide in the sense that they were smart, but they're not necessary for cleanliness, because cleanliness has been established for us from Jesus. And so we're clean through the work of Christ. But they're not binding. The moral law is in our creation. It's in who we are. And so that includes truth. That includes work. That includes rest. That includes our sexual ethic. That includes marriage, and that sex is under marriage. That includes life, killing, and property stealing. Those are the main categories. All the 10 Commandments, and the 10 Commandments are consistently taught throughout the Bible. Jesus himself didn't relax those. He did declare all foods to be clean. He did not relax the 10 Commandments. He actually turned up the heat on them. He said, not only is adultery a sin, but even to look after a woman, to lust for her is a sin. The Apostle Paul, who was very deliberate in explaining that we are no longer under ceremonial law, he still corrected and rebuked people for their sexual sins. We're still under the sexual law. So where does this law of adultery rest? It rests in our creation, that God made Adam for Eve and Eve for Adam, one husband, one wife, and that sex is such a powerful, sacred thing that it should only be experienced within covenant. And so for the long and the short of it is, the reason why we hold to the moral commandments, the moral law, the 10 Commandments, is because they are rooted in our DNA. They go all the way back to the Garden of Eden. They are not relaxed by Jesus or the Apostle Paul, and so they're continual throughout whatever epoch. Now, final part of the question. But what if I don't know all that? How am I supposed to explain all that to the unbeliever? Don't. My encouragement for you is don't. Don't try to get into a debate about the law with an unbeliever. Just talk to them about Jesus. Have you dealt with the truth of the resurrection yet? Have you submitted to Jesus Christ as the true Son of God, Lord of Lords and God of Gods? Have you done that yet? Once you've done that, then we can begin discussing what you do with your money, what you do with your job, what you do with your sexual ethics, what you do with your family, all those incredibly personal things. And he's going to infringe on all of them. Because he is Lord of Lords and God of Gods, he is going to infringe upon all of those things, not just your sexual ethic. But we're not going to talk about that until after we have talked about what you think about Jesus. If you don't recognize him as Lord yet, I'm not having that other conversation with you. It's not relevant. You don't go to hell because you're a homosexual. You don't go to hell because you're sexually active outside of marriage. You don't face God's judgment because of your sexual ethic. You face God's judgment because you're standing before him in your own righteousness instead of in the righteousness of Christ. And so I'm trying to get you into the righteousness of Christ. That's what matters. And once you're in the righteousness of Christ, once you've put your faith in him and are trusting him as your Lord, then we can talk about all those things. And you're going to get offended, and you're going to have to change your life, and he's going to come into you, and he's going to make you willing to give things up slowly and surely. A variety of things, all kinds of things that you don't want to give up. But we're going to talk about Jesus first. So that's an answer to a hard question. I hope it's a helpful answer to a hard question. I thought it was a great question. It was one I wanted to visit again today. So do y'all have any questions about the first commandment or about the law in itself? I'll just kind of, I know there's about a 30-second lag between the time I say something and y'all hear it and you type a response and I see it. And so I'm going to kind of filibuster here for a few seconds and see if we have any current questions. And while I'm doing that, I'm going to say hello to a few people. Carrie Green, good to see you. Always a dear friend of my mom's, any friend of my mom's, friend of mine. Alan Sargent, man, I miss you. I hope you get to come back to church soon. My Aunt Vicky just checked in. I hope she's still here. Good to see you, my dear aunt. Miss you. I don't guess I've seen you since Mom's funeral, which is a sad, sad thing for me to say. So it's good to see all of y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in. So do y'all have any other questions you want me to answer? Tim, thank you for your word of encouragement there. Let's see. Those were good memories, Carrie. I remember you being in high school and coming to visit with us. My mom always had plenty of room in her living room and on her porch, didn't she? So whenever I see your name, it blesses my heart. Well, all right. I think today might be a short day. I don't have any of my questioners. I don't have Josh Bowman or Andrew Mooresman here today. They're my two big question askers. So I'll give y'all about 10 more seconds. If I don't see any more questions, I'm going to let y'all go. Love y'all. Again, if you want to come to worship next week, I've already created the event on the Facebook page. The page for River Oaks, not the group, but the actual page. Go there, let us know that you're coming. If we have more than 80 people sign up, we'll add a second worship service. All right. My wife says I should talk more about how our emotions show our idols. You want to talk more about that? I want you to talk about it. Okay. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. That's a good question. All right, so Bianca's saying I should talk a little bit more about how our emotions show our idols. It's like this. I want to be careful. It's okay to be sad. I think I encourage you to be sad. It's okay to be happy about something. It's okay to be angry about things. All those emotions are gifts from God that are blessings. Yes, Catherine, we are planning on an outdoor service next Sunday at 10:45. That is our plan, weather permitting. And we will confirm that on Facebook by Wednesday. So, all emotions are good things. They're gifts of God to get us through a tragically broken world. But let's talk a little bit about despair. Let's talk about being overly angry. Over anger. You know what I mean? Let's talk about despondency. A lot of times those emotions come when our idol, the thing we think we have to have, we are not human if we don't have it. We're not a fulfilled person if we don't have that. If that has been taken away from us. So, in other words, it's very natural to feel sad. But if you are despondent, on the edge of despair when you lose your job, when you don't have a wife, when you don't have children, when your children don't remember your birthday, it's natural to be sad about those things. But when you're despondent about them, when you're just done without them, that is a great sign that maybe those things were an idol for your heart, an idol that has not been given to you, an idol that's been withheld from you. In the same way, fear is a natural thing, but terror, anxiety, every parent is a little bit afraid that their kids are in danger at all times, right? But just an absolute abject terror, a craven fear that my son's going to get rejected. What does that show me about my own heart? It shows me that my son has become more than just a son. He's become an idol to me. He's become something that if he's not complete, I'm not complete. If he's not happy, I'm not happy. If he's not safe, I'm not safe. He has become the place where I put all of my joy, all of my satisfaction. And that's when a good thing becomes an idol. Paul uses this word in Romans. He uses hypothumia. And the King James Version used to translate it carnal lusts. And so we all just assumed they were talking about sex. He's not actually talking about sex. He's talking about this over desire, hyper desire, right? Thumia is a desire, a hyperthumia is an over desire. You want this thing so badly that if you don't have it, you can't imagine yourself happy without it. You can't imagine yourself being complete without it. That is an idolatrous desire. And those feelings, so a lot of times what's good for us is to look at our feelings and go, why did that one person for me, one of my hyper desires is for acceptance, for approval. I have a real approval idol. And so I could have 500 people come to church on a Sunday, and all of them, and 499 of them say, man, that was great. Thank you so much. And one person not look at me while I'm preaching, or just have a sneer on their face. And I used to, this has gotten better. The Lord's healed this in my heart, but I used to lose sleep. I would stay up till 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning wondering what that one person was thinking, because I had this hyper desire for 100% approval. So that was an idol for me. My preaching and approval of my preaching was an idol for me, and so I couldn't live without it. Anything you feel like you can't live without becomes an idol. So I hope that's helpful. If it's not, please ask more questions. I got a couple questions in here. Josh Markham, Amanda Markham is jumping on late saying, my girls had great questions about today's sermons. We missed children's church, but it's been such, and I cannot get it to go. Oh, no. We're okay. We don't need to worry at all. Catherine Pitlick says, we are okay. I don't know what's wrong, but for whatever reason, when I touch the screen, guys, I cannot get the more out of it. So I can't see the ends of the questions. Catherine, I would just say this. Anxiety, fear is a wise thing if it makes you buckle your seatbelt. Fear is a gift from the Lord. It's what makes you look for your children when they are in a big crowd, or it's what makes you reach out and hold your parents' hands when you cross the street. That's a good and godly fear. And fear is what makes us buckle our seatbelt, what makes us go to the doctor. All those things are good and godly fears. But living with a constant terror, that's a lack of faith that the Lord loves you and is going to take care of you. And there is a balance in between. Now, a lot of people are being really irresponsible right now. I mean, the first person who died in Tulsa, the first Tulsan who died from the COVID-19 epidemic, supposedly was a pastor who refused to believe that the Lord would let him. That is not wisdom. I don't know the person's name, and I don't mean to run them under their bus, but I'm just trying to say that's not wisdom, right? I'm not guaranteed that I won't die from the COVID-19 virus. So sure, I should be aware of it, and I should be careful, and I should be a little bit afraid. Ultimately, am I afraid? No, my soul is safe. I'm in the hands of the Lord. He's going to protect me. Nothing bad is going to be taken away from me. But at the same time, I'm not... I'm expected to act in a wise way. To say, well, I mean, on one hand, it is interesting, right? On one hand, I say, well, the Lord so protects me, not a hair can fall from my head from His approval. On the same hand, I buckle my seatbelts. I think the Lord uses my wisdom. He uses medical workers, exactly. And He expects you to act wisely based upon what He has given you. He's given you a brain. He expects you to make decisions. He expects you to make the best decisions. He's not going to kind of come through and dictate you like a typewriter. So I think you're right, Catherine. You should take care of yourself, and you should be wise. No doubt about that. No doubt about that. All right, my youngest leaned over at the beginning of the sermon and said, I don't have any of those idols. But then afterwards she said, what? I can't see the whole thing. Oh, this is driving me crazy. I'm going to go look it up, and I will type answers to all of your questions. But I can't, for whatever reason, I can't see them. Oh, thank you for all those. Oh, man, that just makes my heart happy. Thank you, Catherine. I love you guys. I miss you. TJ Warren, it's good to see you. I miss y'all so stinking. I can't click it. For whatever reason, Amanda, I can't click it on my phone. I'm sorry. Usually I have my laptop here beside me, and I'm looking at both. I can't, but I promise I will type in answers, okay? I love y'all. I'm going to get out of here. Love y'all very much. Miss you terribly. Bye.